You're about to watch 70 hours of painting in just 2 minutes while I explain why I paint a self-portrait every 5 years. This is something that I started when I was 17 years old, and at that time the idea was just that it would be funny to paint a traditional looking portrait, but with me being, an Indian kid from Ohio in a suit. So while completing that one, I realized how much I had to confront who I was and everything that brought me to such a weird moment as to fully paint myself. But I decided after finishing that first portrait that it would be pretty interesting to paint a new self-portrait every 5 years to document how I age over time, how my style as an artist changes, and how my perception of myself changes. So for example, at 17 years old, I loved wearing suits because it made me feel older and more respected. I kept a straight face and made the background a more traditional, neutral tone, again to kind of convey a sense of being worthy of being respected, which I guess in hindsight was something I felt was lacking at the time. I kept my painting style pretty tight because at that time I loved the idea of hyperrealism in painting, but also because paint was so expensive, and as a 17-year-old I had no money. So fast forward 5 years, at 22 I was on the brink of graduating from college during the middle of the pandemic. I was running a nonprofit that I had started as a student, and I was significantly more confident and connected than I was at 17, hence the, subtle smirk. My painting style got more accurate with color tones, but also looser with the brush strokes to kind of represent a release from the pursuit of perfection. No more perfectionism. Now, here at 27, I am a significantly more complex person than I've ever been before, which will almost guaranteed be true at any given point in the future, but I wanted that to reflect in the painting. So I included key details about my life from the past few years. At the top is something that most people will never recognize, but it's really just for me. It's an award I received for my year leading an organization to raise over $1.7 million for childhood cancer research. In the past few years, I also got my degree. I grew a following of nearly 400,000 people through my photography. I became an author of a book called Advice from America after traveling 15,000 miles across the US to ask 1,000 strangers for life advice. And while I still care enough to try to dress well, I'm not nearly as stuffy as I was before, hence the fun floral jacket over a t-shirt. My painting style hasn't changed a ton in the last few years. It's tighter than it was 5 years ago, but still painterly instead of trying for hyperrealism. But yeah, this is it. This is the progression of me over the last decade, from 17 to 22 to now 27. I know a lot more than I did 10 years ago, but with knowing more, naturally you kind of realize how much more you don't know. So that's where I'm at. But overall, I'm just grateful for how well things have worked out in the past 10 years, mostly in ways that I could have literally never imagined. And I'm just excited to continue figuring my life out. So stay tuned for the next portrait in 5 years.